Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. Maya had always believed that some moments could change everything. She just never expected one of those moments to happen on a Tuesday evening in a crowded coffee shop, with rain pattering against the windows and her heart completely unprepared for what was about to unfold. She was sitting in her usual corner booth, laptop open, pretending to work on her marketing proposal while actually stealing glances at the man 3 tables away. He came here every Tuesday at exactly 6:30 p.m., ordered a black coffee and a blueberry muffin, and sat by the window with a worn leather journal. For 3 months, she'd been quietly fascinated by him, the way he paused mid-sentence while writing, how he unconsciously ran his fingers through his dark hair when he was thinking, the gentle smile that crossed his face when he read something that pleased him. What she didn't know was that today, her carefully constructed world of secret admiration was about to come crashing down in the most beautiful and devastating way possible. The coffee shop was unusually busy that evening. Maya watched as he looked around for his regular spot, finding it occupied by a group of college students. Their eyes met across the room, and for the first time in 3 months, he smiled directly at her. Her heart did something acrobatic in her chest as he approached her table. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, and his voice was even warmer than she'd imagined. "Would you mind if I shared your table? Everywhere else seems to be taken." Maya nodded, probably too eagerly, and gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Of course, please." He extended his hand as he sat down. "I'm Daniel. I've seen you here before. You're always in this corner, very focused on your work." "Maya," she replied, shaking his hand and trying to ignore the electric feeling of his skin against hers. "And you're always by the window with your journal. I've wondered what you write about." Daniel's smile widened. "Poetry mostly. Observations about life, people, moments that feel significant." He paused, looking at her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Speaking of which, I have a confession. I've been hoping for an excuse to talk to you for weeks." The admission hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility. Maya felt her cheeks warm. "Really? Really? There's something about you. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating, how you always order the same lavender latte, the fact that you've read 3 different novels in the past month. I've been curious about the story behind those details." They talked until the coffee shop began to empty around them. Maya learned that Daniel was a high school English teacher who wrote poetry in his spare time, that he'd moved to the city 2 years ago from a small town in Oregon, that he had a rescue dog named Hemingway who was afraid of butterflies. Daniel discovered that Maya worked for a non-profit that helped fund arts programs in underserved communities, that she'd wanted to be a dancer before a knee injury changed her path, that she collected vintage postcards and dreamed of traveling to all the places depicted on them. As closing time approached, Daniel walked her to her car. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the streetlights. Maya fumbled with her keys, reluctant for the evening to end. "Maya," Daniel said softly, stepping closer. "I know this might be forward, but I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this conversation." She looked up at him, seeing her own wonder reflected in his eyes. "I feel the same way." He cupped her face gently in his hands, thumbs brushing across her cheekbones. "May I kiss you?" The question was barely a whisper, but Maya heard it clearly over the sound of her racing heart. She nodded, and when his lips met hers, the world shifted on its axis. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. She felt herself melting into him, her hands finding their way to his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palms. When they finally broke apart, Both breathing heavily, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. That was perfect, Maya finished, her voice barely audible. I should probably mention, Daniel said, his thumb still tracing gentle circles on her cheek. I'm not very good at casual. When I fall completely. Good, Maya whispered. Neither am I. They stood there for a long moment, lost in each other's eyes, before Daniel reluctantly stepped back. I should let you go, but Maya ... Can I see you again? Tomorrow? Yes, she said immediately. Yes, absolutely. He kissed her forehead gently. Tomorrow then. Same time, same place. Maya drove home in a daze, her lips still tingling from his kiss, her heart full of a hope she hadn't felt in years. She fell asleep thinking about his smile, about the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and rare. The next evening, she arrived at the coffee shop early, choosing a dress she'd been saving for a special occasion. She ordered her usual lavender latte and waited, watching the door with anticipation that made her stomach flutter with butterflies. Daniel walked in at exactly 6:30, and Maya's heart leaped at the sight of him. He was wearing a blue button-down. That brought out his eyes, and he was carrying a small bouquet of daisies. But something was different about his expression. There was a tension in his shoulders, a conflict in his eyes that hadn't been there the night before. He spotted her immediately and walked over, but his usual confident stride seemed hesitant. Maya, he said, sitting down across from her. You look beautiful. Thank you, she replied, accepting the flowers with a smile that faltered slightly at his serious tone. Daniel, is everything okay? He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up, Maya saw something in his eyes that made her chest tighten with dread. Maya, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you last night, but I got caught up in the moment, in how perfect everything felt. He took a shaky breath. I'm engaged. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She felt the color drain from her face, felt her carefully constructed happiness crumble around her. What? Her name is Rebecca. We've been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. The wedding is in 6 weeks. His voice was barely above a whisper. I know how this sounds, how terrible this makes me. But Maya, I need you to understand what happened between us last night. It wasn't planned. I never intended to fall for someone else. Maya set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. But you did fall. Yes, he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. Completely. Utterly. And that's what makes this so impossible. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. Maya struggled to breathe, to process what he was telling her. So what was last night? What was that kiss? It was real, Daniel said urgently, leaning forward. Maya, it was the most real thing I've ever experienced. But it was also the most selfish thing I've ever done. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, proud that her voice remained steady despite the tears threatening to spill over. Because I knew that if I told you, you'd leave. And I wasn't ready to lose you, not when I'd just found you. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she'd found endearing just 24 hours ago. Rebecca and I, we've been drifting apart for months. We're comfortable together, familiar, but we're not. We don't have what you and I have. Maya felt a tear escape and slide down her cheek. But you're still going to marry her. It wasn't a question, but Daniel answered anyway. I don't know how not to. We've built a life together, made plans, commitments. Her family, my family, everyone is expecting ... double quotes. He trailed off, looking miserable. That's not an answer, Maya said quietly. That's an excuse. Daniel flinched as if she'd slapped him. You're right. God, you're right. And I hate myself for it. But Maya, I can't just walk away from 4 years. From a commitment I made, ... Even if you're not in love with her anymore. The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Daniel's silence was answer enough. Maya stood up abruptly, needing distance, needing air. I have to go. Maya, please. No, Daniel, just ... no. She gathered her purse and the daisies, though she wasn't sure why she was taking them. I need to think. She left him sitting there, walked out into the cool evening air, and drove home with tears streaming down her face. The flowers lay on her passenger seat, a beautiful reminder of the most heartbreaking conversation of her life. Over the following days, Maya tried to resume her normal routine. She went to work, met with clients, attended meetings, but everything felt muted, like she was living her life through a grey filter. The coffee shop became a place to avoid, and she found herself taking different routes to work to bypass it entirely. But Daniel didn't give up easily. He called, texted, even showed up at her office building one afternoon. Maya managed to avoid him for a week before he cornered her in the parking garage. Maya, please, he said, stepping out from behind a pillar. Just give me 5 minutes. She stopped walking but didn't turn around. 5 minutes to say what, Daniel? That you've changed your mind? That you're calling off the wedding? He was quiet for so long that she finally turned to face him. He looked terrible dark circles under his eyes. His usually neat hair disheveled. His clothes wrinkled. I can't stop thinking about you. About us. About how right everything felt that night. But not right enough to change anything. Maya sighed, her voice flat. I keep trying to imagine my life without Rebecca, and I can't. Not because I love her the way I should, but because I'm terrified of starting over, of disappointing everyone, of admitting that I've been lying to myself for months. Maya's heart ached for him, despite everything. Daniel, you're not just disappointing everyone else. You're disappointing yourself. And her. And me. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I also know that if I don't marry her, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I made the right choice. And if I do marry her, I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I let the love of my life walk away. The words love of my life hit Maya like a physical blow. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. You don't get to say that to me, Daniel. You don't get to call me the love of your life while you're planning to marry someone else. But you are, he said desperately. Maya, in one evening you became more important to me than anyone has ever been. The way you laugh. The way you think. The way you make me want to be better. Stop, Maya interrupted, holding up her hand. Please, just stop, because every word you say makes this harder, and I can't keep doing this. Daniel stepped closer, and Maya could see the pain in his eyes. What if I told you I'm willing to fight for us? What if I said I'd call off the wedding? For a moment, Maya allowed herself to hope. Then reality crashed back in. Would you? Really? Or would you just keep saying, what if, until it's too late? To do anything about it? Daniel opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. His silence was her answer. That's what I thought, Maya said quietly. Daniel, I believe you when you say you have feelings for me. But feelings aren't enough if you're not willing to act on them. And I won't be the other woman, not even in your heart. She turned to walk away, but Daniel's voice stopped her. Maya, wait. What if ... what if we had more time? What if we could figure this out together? Maya turned back and Daniel saw something in her expression that made his heart sink. Time for what? For you to have your cake and eat it too? For me to wait around while you make up your mind about whether I'm worth appending your comfortable life for? That's not fair, isn't it? Maya's voice grew stronger, more determined. Daniel, I've been thinking about this for a week. About that kiss. About everything you said. About everything you didn't say. And I've realized something important. She took a step closer to him, and he could see tears in her eyes. I deserve someone who chooses me without hesitation. Someone who doesn't need to weigh the pros and cons of loving me. Someone who doesn't see me as a complication to be managed. Maya, you're not a complication. Then prove it, she said simply. Make a choice. Her or me. But make it now. Because I won't wait around to be chosen when it's convenient for you. Daniel stared at her, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Maya could see the war raging in his eyes, could see him struggling with the decision that should have been easy if he truly felt the way he claimed to feel. He started, then stopped. I need time to think. Maya nodded, even though her heart was breaking. Then you've already made your choice. This time, when she walked away, Daniel didn't follow. 2 weeks later, Maya was at the grocery store when she saw the wedding announcement in the local paper. Daniel's face smiled up at her from the society page, his arm around a beautiful blonde woman who looked radiant in her engagement photo. The wedding was scheduled for the following Saturday. Maya stared at the photo for a long moment, then carefully tore it out and threw it away. She bought a bottle of wine and spent the evening on her couch, alternating between tears and anger, grieving for what could have been. The following Saturday, Maya woke up determined to reclaim her life. She couldn't spend another day pining. For a man who had chosen comfort over courage, safety over love. She put on her running shoes and went for a long jog through the park, letting the physical exertion burn away some of the emotional pain. She was stretching by the lake when she saw him. Daniel was sitting on a bench about 50 yards away, still, in his wedding tuxedo but with his tie loosened and his jacket thrown over his arm. He was staring out at the water, and even from a distance, Maya could see the dejection in his posture. For a moment, she considered turning around and leaving. But something in his body language, something broken and lost, made her walk over instead. Daniel? She said softly. He looked up, and Maya's heart clenched at the pain in his eyes. Maya, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. Shouldn't you be at your wedding reception? Daniel let out a bitter laugh. There is no reception. There is no wedding. He buried his face in his hands. I couldn't do it, Maya. I stood there at the altar, looking at Rebecca, and all I could think about was you. About that kiss. About the way you looked at me that night. About how alive I felt when I was with you. Maya's heart started racing. What are you saying? I'm saying I called off the wedding. 20 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start, I told Rebecca I couldn't marry her, that I was in love with someone else. He looked up at her, his eyes red-rimmed but determined. I'm saying I chose you, Maya. I just hope it's not too late. Maya stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. Daniel. I know I don't deserve another chance, he continued urgently. I know I hurt you, and I know I've been a coward. But Maya, I realized something today. I realized that a life without you isn't a life worth living. I realized that I'd rather face the unknown with you than spend the rest of my life safe and miserable without you. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. What about Rebecca? What about everyone who was expecting? Rebecca deserves someone who loves her completely, without reservation. And I deserve the same thing. We both deserve the same thing. He stood up, reaching for her hands. Maya, I'm done making decisions based on what other people expect. I'm done being afraid of disappointing people. The only person I never want to disappoint again is you. Maya looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, the love, the commitment she'd been waiting for. Daniel, are you sure? Because I meant what I said. I won't be second choice, not for anyone. You were never second choice, he said firmly. You were always first choice. I was just too scared to admit it. But I'm not scared anymore, Maya. I'm terrified, but I'm not scared. There's a difference. She laughed through her tears. What's the difference? Being scared means you don't act. Being terrified means you act anyway, because what you want is more important than what you fear. He cupped her face in his hands, the same way he had that night in the coffee shop parking lot. I want you, Maya. I want us. I want to build a life with you, to travel to all those places on your postcards, to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. Maya felt her last defenses crumble. Daniel ... I know I've made mistakes, he continued. I know I've hurt you, and I know I have a lot to make up for. But if you'll give me another chance, I promise I'll spend every day proving to you that you made the right choice in loving me. Maya looked at him for a long moment. This man who had turned her world upside down with a single kiss, who had broken her heart with his indecision, who had now shattered his own life to choose her. She thought about the path that had led them here, all the pain and confusion and heartbreak that had brought them to this moment. One condition, she said finally. Anything. No more secrets. No more hesitation. If we do this, we do it completely. Honestly, with everything we have. Daniel's smile was like sunrise after the longest night. Deal. When he kissed her this time, it was different from that first kiss in the coffee shop parking lot. That kiss had been full of possibility and wonder, and the sweet uncertainty of new love. This kiss was full of choice and commitment and the deep certainty that comes from fighting for something worth having. They broke apart, both breathing heavily, and Daniel rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Maya. I should have said it weeks ago, but I was afraid it would make everything too real. I love you too, she whispered. And you're right, it does make everything real. But maybe that's not something to be afraid of. Maybe not, he agreed, pulling her close. Maybe real is exactly what we need. 6 months later, Maya was back in their coffee shop. Because it was their coffee shop now, the place where they'd met, where they'd fallen in love, where they'd almost lost each other and found each other again. She was reading a book of poetry that Daniel had given her, a collection of his own work that included several poems about her, about them, about the night that had changed everything. Daniel walked in at exactly 6:30, just like he had every Tuesday for the past 6 months, except now he came straight to her table instead of sitting by the window. He kissed her hello, a soft, familiar kiss that still made her heart flutter, and sat down across from her. How was your day? He asked, reaching across the table to take her hand. Good, she said, intertwining their fingers. I got the confirmation for the grant we applied for. The arts program is going to be fully funded for the next 3 years. Daniel's face lit up. Maya, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. How was your day? She asked. How did the parent conferences go? Well, I think I convinced 3 more. Families that poetry isn't actually a form of torture, he said with a grin. Progress. Maya laughed, and Daniel felt his heart do that same acrobatic flip it had done the first time he'd heard that sound. Some things, he thought, never got old. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small wrapped package from his jacket pocket. Maya raised an eyebrow. It's not my birthday. Do I need a reason to give you something? He pushed the package across the table. Open it. Maya carefully unwrapped the package to reveal a vintage postcard, faded and worn with age. The image showed a small cafe in Paris, with people sitting at outdoor tables under a striped awning. On the back, in Daniel's handwriting, was a message. For our first adventure together. I love you, Maya. Always and completely. Maya looked up at him, her eyes shining. Daniel, what is this? It's a plane ticket, he said, grinning. Well, it's a promise of a plane ticket. I thought maybe it was time we started visiting some of those places on your postcards. If you want to. Maya felt tears of joy welling up in her eyes. I want to. I want to see everything with you. Good, Daniel said, bringing her hand to his lips and pressing a soft kiss to her palm. Because I plan to spend the rest of my life making up for lost time. As they sat there in their coffee shop, hands intertwined across the table, Maya thought about the journey that had brought them here. The pain, the confusion, the heartbreak, the joy, all of it had led to this moment. To this love. To this choice to build a life together. One kiss had changed everything. But more than that, one choice, the choice to fight for love, to choose courage over comfort, to believe that some things were worth the risk, had changed everything. And as Daniel looked into Maya's eyes, seeing his whole future reflected there, he knew that every difficult decision, every moment of doubt, every tear shed had been worth it to get to this point. Because some love stories don't begin with a first kiss. They begin with the choice to make that kiss matter. Some love stories are worth waiting for. Some love stories are worth fighting for. And some love stories, the best ones, are worth choosing, again and again, every single day. Maya squeezed Daniel's hand, feeling the weight of his promise, the certainty of his love, the joy of their shared future. One kiss had changed everything, but it was all the choices that came after that had made it last. In the end, that was what love really was, not just the magic of a moment, but the decision to make that magic permanent, to choose each other. Not just once, but every day, in every small moment, in every big decision, in every kiss that followed. As they sat there planning their trip to Paris, talking about dreams and futures and all the adventures still to come, Maya knew that this was just the beginning. The best love stories, after all, were the ones that never really ended. They just kept getting better, one choice at a time.